So I think now we can start. Welcome to the ELMA online seminar, Electric Passenger Ships in Urban Public Transport. And I would like to give the floor to Mario Heinrich from the Economic Development Corporation Vorpommern, the lead partner of the ELMA project, for some welcome and intro words.
Yeah, hello together. Thank you all for being here. Am I visible or not? I try to switch on my camera. Yes, so I have to join via cell phone because it's a kind of, it seems to be a rebellion of the technical devices today morning. So, okay, thank you all for being here and welcome to our first of 3 online seminars this June. My name is Mario Heinrich. Thanks, Jens. I'm the representative and the responsible project manager of the lead partner of the ELMA project, the Economic Development Corporation from Vorpommern. Today we are happy to have the opportunity to get some interesting stuff concerning electric passenger ships in urban public transport, mainly in Stockholm, but also a bit beyond. The topic and our speakers, many thanks to you also for being here, give us the chance to learn and talk, among others, about the role of municipalities and regions, opportunities and maybe also risks regarding e-mobility on water in frame of today's subject. But now in short terms, what is ELMA? ELMA is a co-financed project by the European Union in frame of the Regional Development Fund, it's like our South Coast Baltic program. Our main aim is to support South Baltic SMEs to enter the international supply chains and sales markets for boats and ships with electric propulsion. The project budget has a volume of 1.8 million euro. The project consists of 10 partners from Poland, Lithuania and Germany. Additional to that, we have some associated partners from 5 countries. What do we offer? We offer trainings. The next will take place on 22nd of June. You can see some details on our LinkedIn page. We offer seminars like today. Also, the next will take place exactly in 1 week. Also, therefore, you can have more details, visit our LinkedIn page or our project website. We had international study trips. We exhibited on a fair and had joint fair visits. The project offers scientific studies and a really interesting and interested network. All these things and more detailed information you can find on our website, www.electric-water-mobility.eu. That's for short, I would say. Thanks again to you all for being here, and now I want to give the word to Jens. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Mario, for this introduction to the project and also to the framework and the aims of this seminar. My name is Jens Mato from Gamma Consulting. So I'm a project manager of the ELMA project, and we are supporting the lead partner, the Economic Development Corporation Vorpommern, and the project partners in the implementation of the project. And I will also be your guide today through this event. As Mario had said, this is the first of a series of three-hour online seminars, which we are organizing as part of the ELMA project now in June, and which will give you insights into the state of the art of electric water mobility. And I'm very happy that this seminar found interest from institutions from, we have 6 countries among the participants and the registration. So Germany, Sweden, Poland, Lithuania, Norway and the Netherlands I found in the registration lists. And I'm also happy that we have a great variety of participants, so both companies from the shipbuilding sectors, but I also saw that local and regional transport authorities and public authorities and also public transport companies were joining us today. And I hope that this will also enable us interesting discussions after the presentations. Yeah, a little bit about what can you expect, what are we doing. So a little picture in the beginning. So the topic of today, we will focus on one of the main use cases of electric water mobility, and that is public transport in urban areas. And in order to explore this topic together with you a little bit more, we have chosen the city of Stockholm in Sweden as a case study for this event. You see here a nice picture of Stockholm. So Stockholm is located on islands and surrounded by on the inland side by the Lake Mälaren, and also on the seaside by an impressive archipelago. So waterborne transport is kind of in the DNA of this city. I also want to say that actually our plan was even to offer a study trip to Stockholm. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, this is not possible. But we are very happy that our speakers then and our partners in Stockholm, they agreed then to have this today in an online format. Yeah, so we will have a look to Stockholm, and we have of course also a look to very different vessels, and you can find here also on the slides 4 vessels that you will get to know more about and that you will meet during this event, and that will be introduced by the speakers. About the agenda very shortly. So we have in these 3 hours, we have 2 sessions which are divided by a short grab a coffee break, I would say, not even a full coffee break of 15 minutes. So in the first part, we will have a look to the experiences, but also visions in the region of Stockholm. So we have a presentation on the policy framework for enabling and I would also say developing electric water mobility by Michael Ehrmann from Region Stockholm. We have a look to practical experiences. So the commuter ferry Sjövägen, which is in operation since 2014 on a commuter line in the inner city of Stockholm. So here Gustav Mürsten from the shipping company Ballerina will give us some information and some experiences, and we have a look also in pilot projects that are initiated by the region Stockholm to also explore a little bit the future of this urban transport, but maybe also of the archipelago traffic with boats and ships. So this is the first session, and after the coffee break then we will go into, I would say visionary concepts, and but that will turn into commercial and purchasable products very soon. And we will have by Hans Tornell from Green City Ferries, we have a presentation of an electric high-speed pack ship concept and product, and then we have also a look into autonomous water mobility, which is of course also linked to the topic of electric water mobility. And here we leave, so Green City Ferries is also based in Stockholm, but here we leave a little bit Stockholm and have a little jump to Trondheim in Norway, where the company Zeabuz is located, and Erik Dirkuren will let us know and inform us a little bit more about their visions and their concepts for autonomous water mobility in urban areas. So this is the plan for these 3 hours. After each session, we also have reserved some times for your questions and your discussions. And I really would like to encourage you that if you have questions, please let us know. You can either just raise your voice directly and ask the question, but you're also very welcome to post the question in the chat. You see there is a chat function, and so that we can then pick it up here and and forward it to the speakers. So this is kind of the plan for today, and now let's go into the subject and have a look to the first and have a first lecture on this and explore the case study Stockholm Region. And I would like to give the floor to Michael Ehrmann, who is the head of the strategic planning group of the Transport Administration Region Stockholm, and who will now tell us a little bit more about the political framework and the political background of electric water mobility in Stockholm region. So, Michael, we will make you now the presenter so that you can share your slides.
Thank you very much, Jens, for this introduction. I have slides prepared, and this will be my colleague Tobias, who shows the screen. We made it easy when it comes to techniques. Thank you for the invitation into this project, which is very important for us to look at, I would say also, and to follow it, because we are also on the threshold to go into electrification. I think your topic is very interesting and very crucial, as shipping, the whole shipping sector lags behind when it comes to climate mitigation. So electrification is a very important issue, together, of course, with other fuels that are possible, as gas-driven boats and also hydrogen and fuel cell boats in the future. I will give you an overview of what is happening in Stockholm. Myself, I have worked with climate mitigation since 25 years, I could say, but also, again, when it comes to the shipping sector, it's rather unexploited area for myself. So I will talk about our policy frameworks and what we do in order to promote e-mobility, as it's called here, on water. So next slide, please. In order to give you a hint what we talk about when we talk about Stockholm, it's the Stockholm region, and you see the map. It's 200 kilometers from north to south and 150 maybe from east to west. We have 2.3 million inhabitants, many working places, 1.1 million. And as I would like to say, it's both a very dense area in the middle, the red, maybe you see a little bit here, but there's also a very big rural area, and especially we have a big archipelago with 23,000 islands. Of course, not all are inhabited, but many of them need shipping transport. And that's why we, of course, deal with that. And as it was said before, Stockholm is a harbor city, has been part of the Hanse, and it's a very lively maritime traffic. Of course, you have a lot of commercial traffic, a lot of ferries, but what I will talk about today is our own public transport shipping traffic, you can say. Next slide. And as every region, of course, in Europe, we also work a lot with policy documents, and our vision, which we claimed a couple of years ago, and which is established, of course, and decided by our politicians, as we have a regional parliament, is to be an attractive, sustainable, and growing. So we're promoting growth, a growing region with the freedom for the inhabitants to make their choices. But I want to especially, of course, look at the words and the meaning of sustainable region. What does it mean in our terms when it comes to electrification, electricity, energy, and climate? Next slide, please. There we have worked a lot with different steering documents that are the guidelines for our work, for my group, for instance. And as I said in the beginning, I am part of the Public Transport Authority and Administration, and we are a procuring traffic organization, or procuring administration. We, in principle, buy our services by bus, train, and shipping companies that are under contract. And once again, we have politicians that decide at the end about all of this. And our steering documents, I mentioned them because they are, let's say, the framework why we're doing something also in terms of electrification and emission-free shipping traffic in the future. Are our regional plan, We have, according to EU law, of course, also a regional public transport supply plan. Every region has to have that, and we are responsible for that. It's my group, actually, working with that. And we also currently develop a maritime traffic development plan, where we look at our own needs during the next 10, 15 years. And we have also a general goal that says that, as probably in every region, public transport, in our case, in the Stockholm County, shall be easily accessible for everybody, even handicapped people. It should be reliable and environmental friendly. And here, with the environmental friendly cases, I would make a try to give you more details. Next slide, because another steering document is our environmental program that is from 4 years ago, but still valid this year. And there we have the overarching goal to be carbon neutral by 2045. In the program it was set 2040, but this is for the city of Stockholm. Now I'm talking about the region of Stockholm. So, but it's in the same decade, and we have also the national goal for that. This is the driver, let's say the driver for everything. Of course, the carbon neutrality and the transformation of our transport systems, where we have a lot of emissions still. And our environmental program has, of course, seen that already a few years ago. And the goals for our maritime transports are to reduce the use of fossil fuels, the degrees of emissions, including carbon dioxide, and also to cause less harmful impacts of the ships on shores and natures. Not very surprising maybe these goals, but they're mainly important because for our work within the administration, we have to follow them and try to reach them. And it was decided last year also, very important maybe for you to know, that our vessels that run, we have around about 65 vessels going in our traffic contracts, shall have 90% renewable fuels already now. The electric part is very little, but we have a lot of now biodiesel and HVO in our tanks in ships. It's very costly, but it's politically wanted, and therefore we do that. And it's of course part of the region's total transformation into a climate neutral region. So these are the frameworks. Next slide. And some important facts. Now you have to maybe click a little bit more. I just want also to remind you, even if we are a harbor city with many islands, it's still so that maritime public transport, and I include everything in our own traffic, is less than 1% of all public transport. So we have around about 2019 5.5 million travels, but it's less than 1% still. So waterways are not, let's say, a very important part in the inner parts of the region, but rather, of course, in the archipelago. We use around about 10 million liters of fuel. And as I said, we have around about 60 vessels in our fleets, and they cost us around about 38 million euros to be operated during 1 year. Just find some figures what I talk about, okay? And then next slide. We have then divided this into commuter vessels within the inner parts of the dense parts of the region. There we have, of course, a lot of passengers, because these are very short trips. We had 4 million passengers 2 years ago. Last year, much less, and we operate them by ourselves. And then next slide, when it comes to the archipelago, we have 30 lines, and there's 1.8 million passengers. And if you see on the picture on the right side below corner, you see also the passenger numbers, and in the middle you have the summer month. So you can already figure out by yourself that there's a lot of tourists and a lot of people who have summer houses in these islands using our transports. While during the cold season, you see it's very, very few. So this is a very important question for us in general. Which kind of ships and vessels do we need and do we use in the future in order to have an effect in an efficient transport in the future? So next slide. And we discussed it, should be mentioned, yes, I would say. And as I told you in the beginning, we are an administration that procures a lot of all of its traffic operations, and we have here the contracts for the operators in the archipelago. And if we click once again, Tobias, 2 times, maybe you see also who is operating these areas. And there we have both Swedish and also the French Transdev, who owns or which owns Swedish companies that are transporting our people in some areas. And this, if you click again, contracts will they have climate requirements, and I will come back to that in the next slide, but all of them, they expire in 2026. So we are currently all on the way to prepare already now, because it's many years of preparation, the new contracts. So just for your information. And there, of course, and why I'm saying that is 2026 is then also the point where we can require new things. For instance, electric shipping. If of course vessels are available that can do the transports. Okay, next slide, and this is my last one. There you have to click also several times. Again, I come back to the environmental program which we have, because there are requirements already, of course, but 2026 there will be probably other requirements. And Tobias, if you click several times, they're showing up some conditions of our environmental program that are required when we do our contract, when we did our contracting. And this is that the vessels electricity from the shore should be renewable. As I told you, there's a lot of things, active work to minimize noise and swell, and also phasing out chemicals for the operations of the vessels, but also that they should use renewable fuels, which I told you 90% of bio-based fuels, this year should be reached, but then in the future also emission-free operation, which means basically that is electrification or hydrogen. But there it's only in one case, and we will come back to that. And the next slide. The outlook, what we do now is we prepare this maritime public transport strategy, which I told in the beginning, in order to prepare our new contracts, where we then will require probably electric operation. And we also into the work of finding ways to renew our own vessel fleet of 21 vessels during the next 5-10 years. And then there's also the question: which type of engines and drive lines they should have. So, and this is also part then, of course, of the new contracts, which I told you. And once again, just to underline my message, emission-free operation is already existing in some contracts, but it will be a very important factor within our upcoming preparations for the new contracts. So we are on the threshold to a new area. So next slide, where I can say thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael, for this introduction to the context of electric water mobility in Stockholm, and also to your strategies. Are there any questions to Michael? Maybe one question from my side. You said, yeah, we are emission free already today, and it's expensive. Of course, you stressed very much that there is a political will to afford these extra costs. So can you tell us a little bit, maybe since when were these decisions made in order to invest and to go to an emission-free way? And maybe you can also say, is this a topic that is now accepted by the political also in the city parliament and so on, or is it still a controversial question that is discussed again and again?
The region of Stockholm has worked with active climate policies since 30 years. And we had a couple of environmental programs that built on each other, and the last one is from 2017, which will end now at the end of this year. And there was the decision taken to increase the share of renewable fuels even in our shipping fleet. And this is a political will, as I said. It's controversial because of the costs. It's not controversial of the fact that we have to go to something else. But the costs, of course, because of course, as every region, we are the public transport operator standing for the costs, and it's tax money, and also, of course, incomes from the fares. We have a lot of losses, of course, during these pandemic years. So, of course, deciding that investing in HVO fuels that cost a couple of millions is maybe seen by some as not necessary right now. But we're still holding strong on it. So the politicians are willing to go further on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there further questions?
There's a chat. I don't know if there's something to see.
Not yet. I'm checking this. At the moment, there is no question. Yeah, so thank you very much, Michael. I think you will stay with us until the coffee break. So maybe also when we see the other two presentations on Stockholm, maybe there will be also questions leading back to the policy framework. And thank you very much, Michael. And I would now then give the floor to Gustav Mürstin, the CEO of the shipping company Ballerina. Okay. Yeah, I see the phone at least, but there is a problem with the phone. Okay. I would say, Igor, I think maybe you can take care of this and of Gustav to repair this, maybe also in a direct phone contact in between you. And maybe we, because this may take some time. So I would suggest that we move on to the third presentation instead in the meantime. And Gustav, we will get back to you with the experiences of Sjövägen then in about 20 minutes. And I would like to ask then instead for another presentation by the region Stockholm, the Transport Administration, Tobias Karlsson, who is a strategist in the strategic planning group. The region Stockholm on the one hand has already practical experiences. We heard the policy framework, and part of the shift, the transition to emission-free, zero-emission water transport is also that pilot projects are launched, and one of them, which is currently in the startup phase, I understood, is to have a look into high-speed electric shuttle ships, which may be used both in the city center, but maybe also for the archipelago traffic, and which are another option enabled by electric mobility for the traffic. And yeah, Tobias, I would like to give now the floor to you to tell us more about this interesting project.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me and that we have better success with the technology. And that goes
now it's good. So I can hear it. That's
so. Yeah, as you mentioned, thank you for the introduction. This presentation is really about a pilot project to explore an electric hydrofoil ship in public transport. And I'd like to start with the words of this familiar person. I think you all recognize him. He said that we cannot possibly solve today's big problems with the same mindset that created them. So what does that mean? And I like to address it to the mindset of having too many preconceived notions about how things are and how they work. We seem to know how things should work because we look back how it is working right now. And sometimes it's really hard for us to believe in another way of doing things that we experience as the reality right now. I think it's good words to bring along when you work with innovation. And also you probably all know about this curve, that adoption to new technologies. It's often appears when you talk about new technology or gadgets or different digital solutions. And I think each of us as individuals, I think it's quite easy to position ourselves in this curve if we really are an innovator and an adopter, or if we like to wait a little bit to try things later on when it's accepted on the market. However, what about us as the public transport authority? Which role should we really have? It's a complex situation. I will start with a brief background story about this project. Michel already mentioned some targets and challenges with emissions. What I want to show here is a difference in grams per passenger kilometer compared to bus. It's quite huge actually. As you can see, in 2019 at least, it was 422 grams compared to 34 grams in the bus. To railways, of course, it's even bigger, but I'm not showing that here. It's most relevant to compare to a bus solution in this case. And in the bus sector, development has gone faster as there are several sustainable technologies already on the market. You know most about them probably. For the maritime sector, it's not yet that developed, and I guess a lot of us here in this seminar today are working quite heavily to make this happen. But some measures has been implemented during the years, such as eco-driving training, retrofitting to hybrid propulsion systems, and also, as Michel mentioned, the use of HVO to a quite large extent. The share of renewable fuels in public transport in Stockholm has also been in a shift quite rapidly in the bus sector and reached about 96% in 2019. And there's a mix of technologies behind that achievement. The maritime transportation has shifted slower. It was 18% in 2019, but we actually reached a milestone in 2020 by having 50% renewable fuels, mostly by adding HVO. So we are moving quite rapidly, at least now, towards the targets. And also, Michel mentioned some targets. 2030 is kind of a stepping stone to between 2045. And looking at some emissions here, we have a target to reach 75% reduction of nitrogen oxides and particles, and also to shift into 100% of fossil-free fuels in the maritime sector as well. And a reduction of energy use shall decrease with 15% at the same time. So with all of these factors, there's definitely some room for innovation. Some characteristics of our tonnage and the maritime transport system. The archipelago that Michel already talked about, it's a very beautiful place that a massive amount of people like to visit during the summer. As you know, the summer isn't that long here in Sweden. And quite often during this short time, the ships are fully loaded with passengers, with luggage, with cargo, some pets, or whatever people want to bring along. And everybody's aiming to reach different locations on these islands. There are many islands and various reasons. It could be going to the beach, going to the summer house, to a restaurant for the night, going for work, or many people just cruise around the archipelago for a day. So there's quite a few different needs during the summer. But the scenario drastically changed during the low season when many of these destinations are not that attractive anymore. And this means we experience quite significant fluctuations in the utilization of the vessels. And also in the winter time, we still need to operate the public transport as there are people living in these islands and they need to travel. Some frequency in routes to these islands, it's not easy to solve this task. Some winters there's also the presence of ice, quite thick ice, making it even harder to reach some of these islands. And not all of the ships can break through thick ice, and we even need to use hovercraft sometimes to reach some islands, and even helicopters too, when it's really special reasons. Of course, you understand this is quite expensive for us to solve this during the whole year. Commuter vessels, they are more stable in utilization. They move shorter distances and they are part of the daily routines for some people going to work daily. Still, they represent quite a low share of the total amount of passengers in the overall public transportation system. But maybe this can change in the future. Who knows? Because there is some potential, definitely, and there is a hypothesis that we work with. Maritime transport and the seaways has the potential to offer both a more attractive route and shorter travel times than land-based alternatives, not only because of traffic jams that you see here in the picture, also because there's a longer route to drive around islands, over bridges, and go around different bays and things. So there are actually longer routes going by car or bus or rail, if there's not a tunnel, of course. Also, the waterways can have a quite significant relieving effect on the system in general, which could help us during peak hours when there is a crowd in the public transport system. Between the peak hours, it's a more fair way of using the space in these solutions. It's not that crowded. As mentioned earlier also by Michel, my colleague, there are some challenges with conventional ships. They consume quite a lot of energy due to the water displacement. And the creation of waves from this displacement is a problem causing land erosion and the rocking of boats that are moored to jetties. There's also, of course, the pollutions from emissions from combustion engines and also in some cases disturbing noise from the machinery. Maintenance time and cost of these conventional ships and vessels is always a challenge. It's affecting time planning and effectivity and things like this. So there is definitely some room for innovation, and that's why pilot projects like this get started. We summarized a couple of drivers for innovation in this project. As we mentioned, creation of swell is a cause for speed limitations in the waterway, and that has a negative impact on the travel time, meaning if we could go faster and not create waves, we could possibly make a faster travel time and a more attractive route. Also mentioned before, the fluctuation in the utilization of the tonnage is very expensive and ineffective. Very crowded in the summer, not so crowded in the winter. And emissions is an obvious concern, of course. Before I move on to the actual project, I'd like to show you a chapter of the innovation strategy that Region Stockholm has. We shall collaborate with external actors by offering high-quality test and demonstration environments when there is a clear operational and user benefit. These test environments must also be available for employees' innovations. So it means that we should try to seek cooperations when it's possible and also encourage the employers to come up with their own ideas from basically internal work. It's quite popular for the employees here to suggest ideas to work with, and then they could get the small innovation support to make it happen. And also, by trying out different ideas in a pilot project, valuable information is obtained before deciding on permanent implementation to further develop innovations and stimulate regional growth. Remuneration and financing models may need to be developed when the solutions are to be introduced. So meaning, if we try out innovations that challenge old ways, it could be necessary to also look at policies and different financing models in the future. So moving on to the actual pilot project here, there was an opportunity to explore an innovation. Some new technology is available through Candela speedboats, and there was a possibility to apply for a co-financing for a project from the Swedish Transport Administration. They have a research and innovation program there, which we applied to. Just want to mention here also that we had autonomous operation in the scope initially, but in discussions with the Swedish Transport Administration, it was discontinued. Basically for the reason that the project would be too broad in content. I mean, the scope would be a little bit too big. But this is something that could be investigated in the future, definitely. So maybe you have seen it already, the electric hydrofoil day cruiser from Candela. They are a company based here in Stockholm. Used to be a startup, but probably now slowly becoming a scale-up with all the attention they get and the popularity of the leisure boat they have. Nevertheless, with their will to achieve even bigger things and to do some real impact in the shift to zero-emission vessels, they want to expand the product portfolio and scale up the technology into larger crafts, such as vessels for public transport, charter, or other commercial operations. So what is new to this technology, really? Well, the first hydrofoil is considered born already in 1861 by an English engineer called Thomas Moy, who installed a set of wings on his boat and noticed a lift as the vessel was towed. So the hydrofoil itself isn't really that new. Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, was the first to do some real experimental trials already in 1908. And here on the picture you see the model HD4, which he managed to raise in about 62 knots already back in 1919. I think it was a record for crafts on water at that time. And as far as I know, the process of landing the whole ship on the surface after this speed was a little bit of a problem. But I think that problem has been solved now in more modern ships with hydrofoils. Both military context and public transport has tried out hydrofoils during the years, but not with electric propulsions and not with the widely developed sensor technology and flight control that Candela has developed. Here you see the leisure boat that they have in operation today, and also a chart about energy efficiency, considering the amount of passenger and range. What you can see here is that Candela represents the blue dots, and comparable fleet or vessel is the red dots. and you can see the passenger count on the lower scale. So at least now it seems like this technology of candela is mostly effective up to maybe 150 people or something, and then the benefit of this technology kind of fades out a little bit. It is still more effective as a technology, but definitely the biggest impact is on smaller vessels. After 50 people, you can see there's quite a lot of energy savings being made, even up to 100. So the project is started, and you might have seen this already on the internet because there was some news about this project started. This is an early design sketch of the vessel, and it's called P30 right now. It is not a final design. It's important to mention this. The engineers at Candela and our team within the PTA are working with the requirements and specifications right now. So it's definitely subject to change before it's finally leaving the shipyard in late next year. But to summarize, it's really a high-tech vehicle, and also from our side, we hope to try out some new IT concept as well. We'll see if it's fitting the budget or not. There might be some opportunities to try some new concept and experiment on them. Several functions are mandatory to fulfill to be able to operate as a public transport vessel. There are some rules that we require to be fulfilled before put into traffic under our flag. And also, of course, the project aims to do a proper evaluation, and to do this evaluation, we need many data. We want to compare the P30 to conventional ships where it's applicable. And also for Candela's matter, they want to validate the technology and ship design in professional use. It is different to the leisure use case that they have experienced from the Candela 7 leisure boat. It is really something else for the machinery and the whole ship to operate as a professional ship in public transport. This ship has several sensors that can supply all that data we need, and then it will be up to us to analyze and draw conclusions from it. And we can basically follow everything that happens aboard this ship, but of course from engine RPMs and temperatures, activity in gyroscopes and energy consumptions from different parts of the system. We will basically be able to follow and track everything and cross-check that to positioning data and time trackings. So we hope to be able to find out how the ship really performs in some specific route. So collecting data, finding out what really happened during the operation, and then to summarize that in the very end. Also, charging sequence, as it runs on battery, it will be a very important part to follow, as it will have a strong impact on the time schedule on this vessel if it would be a future solution for us. How long time does it need to charge? When should it charge? And one challenge for us as a region is where can it actually charge? The electrical power grid infrastructure in the archipelago and even some central jet has some limitations when it comes to capacity. I think you all have followed the debate and challenges on the land side, where charging places for personal cars also needs to be developed. In the maritime sector, it's not that developed at all, so that's a challenge. But for the project, we plan to use what is already there, so we're not planning to have some new charging locations installed. Also, ticketing. Ticketing is a quite important factor. Of course, it's affecting the effectivity of the boarding and offboarding. If you save time on travel time, that's one thing, but if we lose a lot of time boarding the vessel, offboarding the vessel, we kind of lose a lot of the benefits of a faster travel time. So we will see what we can do with that as well. Selecting the route is something that we are working on right now. We of course did some pre-studies on potential routes before we applied for the project, of course, but now that we know that the project will be able to be executed, we need to do a deeper analysis of this and really look into cross-checking the specifications of the vessel and finding the areas for dispensations from speed limits. We need to apply to be able to go faster than it is allowed. A lot of these dispensations are because of waves making land erosion. Also, we are mapping the charging infrastructure on every jetty that the vessel should dock along the way. And also looking at the jetty specifications. There is a tide difference in Sweden as well. It's not that large. I mean, the difference in water height, it's shifting, of course, but not as much as on other locations in Europe. But we need to consider it. It's a rather small boat, so being able to dock every jetty is a little bit of a challenge as well. Just one little glance at the time plan. As I mentioned, this year we're working with the requirements and specifications. After the summer next year, Candela will do hopefully some sea trials and test everything, and also make sure to get the certifications and everything needed for the vessel to be approved. The second quarter of 2023, we will hopefully start to operate it in traffic and welcome passengers on board this ship. And then we hope to run for about a year, maybe not every day, but we hopefully can try out in different conditions, both the lake of Mälaren and also in the sea. And of course, we want to try it in bright sunshine, quite nasty storms and winter climates and everything that we can try during this year. If anybody wonders if it can go through ice, the answer is no. So that is a challenge not only for the pilot, it's a challenge for a future solution to a system with this kind of ships. But we are very happy to have the possibility to try this and to follow it, and we hope to deliver an interesting report in a couple of years for everybody to read. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tobias, for these presentations. Are there questions to it? Okay. Not yet. I understand that you will have an extensive evaluation and an evaluation report in 2024 ready. Will this report also be available and published then, if someone is interested to follow your project? Or
yes,
is this
definitely.
For internal use?
No, it will be definitely a published report. It's one of the requirements from Trafikverket, who is also financing the project. So it will definitely be an official report in the very end, with some data and hopefully some conclusions about that.
Okay. I understood that this hydrofoil technology, it enables to have less swell and then higher speeds in areas which are kind of usually with speed limits in the archipelago. So if you look at it not only from a strategical point of view, and not only from a technological, but a strategic point of view, is part of your pilot also to have a look into in which way also, I would say, new lines could be operated and make use of this combination, which is quite a change, I would say, compared to the ships that you have in operation today?
Yes, definitely. So there is, when working with pilot projects in general, it's really important to consider how do we design the test to get enough data to evaluate and to draw conclusions. And so which scenario and which route the test actually do has to really be the same thing as a future route or some conclusions we make to make a new route. So because there is a challenge if we would try, for instance, like a new route that doesn't exist today, from a political point of view, it's not really that smooth to do it, because then we are showing a new line, and if it starts to become really popular, then we take it away again after the end of the test. So we hope to learn enough on existing routes to plan for maybe opening up a new one, so to say. So during the pilot, we will operate in already existing routes, but hopefully in a mix of archipelago and the lake. But it's not really decided yet. It's a bit complicated to find out all the proper dispenses that we need and those things.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have a question also here from the chat, a little bit going into the overall perspective again. So you also mentioned retrofit. So the question is there also other plans or maybe also already examples to modify all diesel ferries into electric ferries in Stockholm?
I am not the best person to answer that. I know it has been done, but it could be also initiatives from the operators to do it themselves, really. And from our side, in most cases, we are not really deciding on technology shifts. We do it together in discussions with operators and things. It has been done, but maybe Gustav Myrsten hopefully can answer that better than me.
Okay, so we get back to this question after the next presentation, maybe. Are there further questions at the moment? Okay, then thank you, Tobias, for the time being. So maybe after Gustav's presentation, there will be further questions also to you. For this, a little bit, this look into the future, and yeah, what could be possible with electric ferries and in combination with other technologies in the archipelago traffic and the urban traffic. We should have now another attempt with Gustav Myrsten from shipping company Ballerina, Reederei AB Ballerina, who is operating the Sjövägen since 2014, an electric commuter ferry. Gustav, I see that you are now 2 times in the list, and 1 time you are here as dial-in. Can you hear us now? And can you speak? Maybe we can have a try.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm glad.
Okay.
I'm glad we can hear you now. Thank you.
Then I will
you.
make
The
a quick
floor is yours.
presentation as I don't have so much time, I think. My name is Gustav Myrsten.
We have
Yeah,
some
okay.
delays,
Okay.
but we have a break as a buffer.
Okay. Okay, thank you for letting me telling you a little bit about my story about electric ferry in Stockholm Archipelago. I've been in the shipping business all my life, and in this commuter service for 21 years. And since 2012, on behalf of the region, we have been as an operator for them. And you come to the next slide. Next. And we are operating this line, as you can see. This is the inner water on the saltwater side in Stockholm. We go from the city and eastwards and north up. So you can see the total length up from the city up to Ropsten is about 1 hour. And from Nacka Strand, which is on the southeast part of the map. It takes about half an hour into the city. And you take the next slide, you can see the line that we're going. You see the development of the amount of passengers is, we started 2005, I think, to count a little bit more, and it was 100,000 passengers, and to 2020, 1.8 due to the pandemic. You see we have not doubled, but 50% up every year since we started. So probably have been 2021 would have been 2 million if we not have had the pandemic, and we have less passengers, and also the restriction with halved the amount of passengers on the vessels, so we could not spread the pandemic on them. And of course a lot of bikes and wheelchairs and also strollers. That is very, very favorable to go on the ferry. Next slide. And here is the electric ferry that we built. That's how she looked 2013 when she arrived to Stockholm. And you can see also the challenge we have, that in the winter time we have to go in some broken ice on the route. And we have speed limits. We have 7 knots, we have 12 knots, and we have 8 knots on the line. And you can see we take 190 passengers. That was the region that put up that, and 30 bicycles, wheelchairs, and of course with the gangway that is very wide, so we can take wheelchairs and also the electric wheelchairs without any problem. A lot of people bring their bicycles, so that was also a big challenge to have a big forecastle so you can have all the bikes on board. And also in the summertime you can sit outside on the top of the vessel. And she is made in reinforced glass fiber. So it's her weight is about 40 tons, including batteries, which makes her not take so much consumption. And here you can see the electric side of the vessel. From the left, we have the connection to the power station. In land, it's 3 times 64 amps that we have. And we have the chargers on board the vessel, because we didn't exactly know where we would traffic the vessel in the region. So we can charge wherever there is a blue box on the shore, we can charge the vessel. And then we have 2 setups of batteries, 500 kilowatt hours. They weight about 5 tons. I wouldn't tell you how much they cost, but they are expensive, or they were at least. I think they're a bit less expensive today. And then we have frequent converters and 2 electric motors with direct connection to the propeller shaft. So no gearboxes there and no losses. And then if there is some failure somewhere, we have 2 small diesel generators on board, just to be sure that we can bring, or when we are transporting the vessel to a shipyard far away, or any other situation that is maybe needed, or if it's heavy ice and the batteries are not strong enough. Next slide. And here you see we have, as I told you, we have the high flexibility. The cables that we are charging, which is our deckman or deck girl can easily go ashore and put them and connect them. And we can also choose different amperes depending on what how much power there is on the shore side. And here you can see the consumption from 7 knots up to 9-10 knots. We are normally operating in this region between 7 and 9 knots. So you see the effect that we need is between 50 to 75 kilowatts consumption on the vessel. And this is, of course, crucial to have batteries enough for running the whole day. As you see, the maximum power is 160 kilowatts 2 times. That is when we are forcing heavy ice. We need that consumption. But normally we run under 100 kilowatts, 50 kilowatt each engine. Next. And then we come to the experience. The passengers really feel it's high comfort because there's no noise on board, and of course no exhaust gases. And people think, why are we running so slow? And we say we are running 7 knots. It's a speed limit there, but we're only going 4. They think because it's so quiet. The whole system is very reliable. We maybe have bought a little bit too expensive things, but as we are paid by the hour from the region, we really wanted to have reliable things that is working. And I think we have been delayed on this very few hours in this time. 21,000 running hours in this 6.5 years. That means more than 3,000 hours per year, which is quite a lot. And normal day, we are running 5 hours and then charging 2 hours and then running 5 hours more. And then we are fully charging over the night. Low maintenance cost, of course. The things that we have been changing now is all the chargers has been rebuilt. But otherwise, there are only small fuses or things that is has broken. One good thing is that the driver knows that he has to drive very carefully because the fuel tank, the battery's capacity is limited. So he really knows that he has to really run the 5 hours. He has to run eco driving, and that is affecting also the other vessels. You can see when we have a captain coming from a diesel engine driven, he uses a little bit more. He has to learn to drive more eco-friendly, which is very good. And of course, with this vessel, everybody was very skeptical to have a very light vessel, as this is. Normally they say you should have a very heavy vessel to go in the ice, but in the ice conditions that we have in Stockholm, of course the vessel is reinforced in the rudders, the propeller shaft, the hull, so we can go in the ice condition. It has performed very well. We go up to 20 centimeters of ice, roughly, but preferably in the crushed ice. Next. Economy. After 21,000 hours, we have seen that the battery capacity has gone down 20% roughly, which is what the supplier estimated. So that means that in some time we have to change the batteries. We bought some extra batteries because we knew that we would have this loss. So the capacity we are using now was the one we calculated from the beginning. We are running the batteries from 100 down to roughly 20% of their capacity as it is now. Also, we run between 20 and 100, not lower. In the beginning, we run between 40 and 100. And of course, the capacity we have on board, there's no power enough on the shore, so we cannot supercharge the batteries. So that means that we have a limited operating time. As I said, about 5 hours. And also what we say is that there is a need of a guy in the office that is familiar with this new technology. It's not new in one way, but you have to have a different knowledge in the technology when one fuse breaks or something happens. And of course, we have much lower maintenance costs, as understandable. The big cost is the renewal of the batteries, which is much higher. The cost for that is much higher than the electricity we have used during these 21,000 hours. Next. And that's it. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gustav, for your presentation.
And I can maybe I can ask the question, answer the question of older ferries to convert them to electric. Well, it's always a question of how much energy you when you go out in the archipelago. The distances are very long, and the need for kilowatt hours is so high, so it's difficult to do it. But here in Stockholm water, where you use very little energy because you don't go so quick, it's easier maybe, of course, to modify them. But of course, also in the end, it's a question from the region, because going with the batteries are so expensive still. It's a question of cost, of course. And then we are not paying tax on the fuel, but on the electricity we are paying tax. I hope that is some sort of answer.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so different from, for example, Norway, where electricity is extremely cheap, and in Sweden you have the situation that this is a cost factor. Are there further questions? I'm observing the chat. Okay, maybe from my side about winter operation. One thing is, of course, that you have to go through the ice. You say it's a good ice performance. When it comes to the batteries and the charging, are there any? I mean, you can have heavy winters in Stockholm. Did you meet any challenges with this regard?
No, we saw no problem with that, because the battery room, the batteries are quite efficient, so we don't heat it up. It doesn't get so much warm, so the earth is not heating up so much. But the batteries, of course, we have to have them in. But the vessel is well insulated, and we take care of the losses in the chargers. We heat up the boat with those losses. So there's actually no extra challenge with concerning the winter.
Okay. Further questions, comments? Yeah, maybe one last question from me from my side before we go into the coffee break. Gustav, if you could build her again, I don't know if you want to share this, because of course it's also a little bit of a business secret maybe from your side, but if you could build her again with the experiences of these 7 years of operation, so what would you change?
If I would change something, no, I think I would build. Of course, you want to build a vessel that maybe go a little bit, have another hull shape, so you can go a little bit faster, maybe 10 to 15 knots. But that's plus and minus how to do that. But also one challenge is that if we have a sea level that varies in Stockholm with plus minus 50 centimeters. So we have to have a gangway that is accessible both for going up or going down, because independent how the dock is. So if we would have floating docks instead, then we are docking 17 times in 1.5 hours. If you can save 1 minute on each docking, then you can save maybe 1 or 2 knots. So if you have floating docks, you can save this minute. But as it is now, where all the docks are looking different, and they are in the communities are building the docks, and the region is running the boats, and me as an operator is in between. So I can't do this. And also the ticketing is a problem, if you could have ticketing on the shore side, then you would save a lot of time in going on and going off the vessel. And the vessel itself, I think it's small changes. I mean, we built 3 more ships the same size now, but they are diesel electric, and they're more or less the same. Very small modifications.
You mentioned diesel electric. Do you still have something like auxiliary engine or a conventional one, or is this a fully electric vessel? Do you have something
The new ones?
Emergency? No, the Sjövägen. And
the Sjövägen, they are more or less emergency engines. So we're running electric 10 hours, but if we have a timetable that is 12 hours, then we run 1 or 2 hours with them on. As we are charging the batteries with them.
Okay, so you are also allowed to go on diesel if it's needed in order to keep the timetable.
Yeah, exactly. But we run on HVO and all the other vessels are T3 vessels on the diesel vessels. So we have the cleaning system on board.
Okay.
For exhaust gases.
Okay, are there further questions to Gustav, Tobias, or Michael? Yeah, then I would say thank you very much for these insights and little visits to Stockholm. Yeah, I think it would have been great to visit you also in this nice city, but also to have a ride with this ship in practice, of course. Let's hope that this will be sooner or later maybe be possible again, and it will be it will be interesting to see how this goes on. Thank you very much, Gustav.
You're very
Michael,
welcome.
and Tobias.
It just cost you 1 ticket on the public transportation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would suggest that we now go into a little grab a coffee break. We are a little bit behind schedule, but we have some buffers. I would propose that we go now into a break until 10:45, and then with a slightly adjusted schedule, we would then go to the second section of the day, which is about innovative solutions. So we will learn about electric high-speed and lightweight passenger ships from Hans Dornell from Green City Ferries, and also electric autonomous water mobility by Erik Dirkuren from Zeabuz. So let's be back at 10:45, and then let's go on with the next 2 presentations. Thank you very much for the moment. So welcome back to the seminar and to our second session, which we put the heading Innovative Solutions for Electric Urban Water Transport, a peek into the near future. We will have now presentations by 2 companies which are kind of developing and very soon also offering solutions for electric waterborne mobility in urban areas. And the first one is Hans Dornell, founder and CEO of Green City Ferries from Stockholm, which we invited to talk about and to present his concept for zero emission high speed PAX ferries. So when you see maybe the description in the agenda, so it's high speed, it's electro, it's also the word hydrogen in it, and I see lightweight. So a lot of combination of interesting technology. With this presentation, actually, we go back to the roots of Elmar, by the way. So at our very first meeting in 2017, I think, in Stralsund, we had a presentation by Eshandia Marine, Joachim Skogberg, who presented us at that time kind of the Movitz, a conventional pax ferry, which was retrofitted to an electric ferry in Stockholm. And this is also the origin of Green City Ferry. I think Hans will tell us more. And when we met, when we had this meeting, we said, we agreed we should come back to Stockholm and also to the further developments after in the end of the projects, and that's what we do. And I look very much forward to see how things have proceeded and Hans' presentation of the products and the activities of Green City Ferries. So Hans, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jens. Finally, I would say we are right in time. Compared to 2017, there's a climate emergency, there's a need for many solutions, and we have one solution. And cities are growing, and so is also traffic congestion. We talked about earlier, Sjövägen. So there's an opportunity to introduce and expand waterborne public transportations now. And you can see from the growth of the passengers from 100,000 to over 1 million. That's interesting. Green City Ferries is the first mover for emission-free fast ferry solutions in large scale. Okay, next picture. There, okay. I would say that our solution is a game changer. We are system integrators for sustainable mobility on water, and we introduce emission-free transport, high-speed transport, and actually at lower cost. And I will tell you how. First, a little bit about the history. In 2013, Chandia Marine started up with a powertrain, a small electric pod that we intended to sell. That evolved into the Movitz vessel in 2014, where we actually used the powertrain. Movitz was the first supercharged passenger ferry, and we could charge the vessel in 10 minutes and operate it for 1 hour, which was impossible by then, as people thought. 2 years later, we introduced the electric prototype, the BB Green. It was the world's fastest supercharged passenger ferry, could make 30 knots only on batteries. And I would say it's still the world's fastest supercharged passenger ferry. After that, years of development followed, and Green City Ferries and the Chandia went different routes. The Chandia, they developed batteries, the LTO batteries, which are possible to charge very, very quick. And they're also developing the IC-Max one, which is the fuel cell package. And furthermore, in this year, we could introduce the new BB Green 24 electric or hydrogen vessel for 147 passengers, plus bikes making 30 knots with very low weight. We started up as a shipping company having Movitz, and then we more and more evolved into being a systems integrator, because we realized that we stood against a transition, the transition from fossil fuel-based shipping into electric or hydrogen-based shipping. And that's a big step for the public transport authorities. So we expanded our offer, and we can offer ferries, fuels, and financing based on existing technology, which was very important because there are so many pilot projects, etc. But there's a need now to get going. And so we decided focusing on existing technology. And I will go through this about ferries, about fuels, and about financing now. First, about ferries. If we look at the hulls, this is a corvette called Visby. It's in the Swedish Navy. It was built in the mid-90s. And they had a problem because they couldn't have enough arms on board because of weight. And then there was a guy who suggested that they would build the vessel in carbon fiber instead. And, and that made the hull about 30% lighter, and they could use more arms on the vessel. This guy was Anders Lönne. He's now working with Green City Ferries. But my message is, we have been working in Sweden with carbon fiber boats for 25 years, and there are a lot of skilled people in the country now. If we look at hulls, energy efficient hulls, and I use 150 passenger size as an example. A normal, I would say normal aluminum catamaran would use about 60 kilowatt hours per nautical mile. Now there are carbon fiber catamarans, and here is one, and the usage is 45 kilowatt hours per nautical mile in 25 knots. We worked many years with the ASV, the air supported vessel, the BB Green 24, which uses about 30 kilowatt hours per nautical mile. But there are other solutions also. There's something called the foil supported vessel, which is comparable to the air supported vessel, also consuming about 30 kilowatt hour per nautical mile. And then we have hydrofoil vessels, and you saw the presentation of Candela. That's even more efficient, or something about 15 kilowatt hours per nautical miles. And if we're going to use hydrogen or batteries, we definitely need to have vessels that has energy efficient hulls. So we made a decision in Green City Ferries at the beginning of this year. That was to abandon the ASV hull because it was not market ready, really. Instead, we turned to the foil supported vessel. And this is our vessel that we are focusing now. It is foil supported. That means there is a hydrofoil about in the center line of in the midfips, which raises the vessel. Same concept as the air-supported vessel. It raises the vessel about 50% out of the water, and it reduces energy consumption by some 50% compared to conventional catamarans. And the reason for we haven't evaluated the two systems for a while, and the reasons for us choosing this one was first, it was existing technology. There is a similar vessel operating actually in Seattle, the Lady Swift, but she is diesel driven and built in aluminum. But she has a hydrofoil and she has a wave height from about 20 to 25 centimeters. Actually, all you who are listening, you know, this is the first official picture we have of the vessel. So it's still not really official, but you have seen it now. Well, let's go over to fuels. There's a lot of talking about fossil-free or emission-free or renewable, etc. But the fact is that the most vessels today are diesel-driven, and diesel is very efficient. So there's a match to do. Let's make an evaluation of different fuels. We take diesel, batteries, or hydrogen. First, we have the density. Diesel can have 14 kilowatt hours per kilo. You could fill the tank on board and go for a very long distance. If you use the batteries, they're so heavy 0.06 kilowatt hours per kilo. So that's the real bad thing about batteries. They're so heavy. Hydrogen, on the other hand, is better. When we look at the efficiency factor, diesel uses about 33% for propulsion. What about the other 67%? I used to say they're used to heat up the engine room. It's losses. While batteries are very efficient, 90, perhaps 95% can be used for propulsion. Hydrogen is not so efficient, about 50% can be used for propulsion. If we look at the price, it's very different in different countries, and I've used Swedish prices here. Diesel costs today about 70 cents per liter, batteries about 7 cents per kilowatt hour, and hydrogen €5 per kilo. That's not easy to compare. But if we look at the cost and we consider the efficiency, the cost in euro per kilowatt hour for propulsion is 21 cents for diesel, 8 cents for batteries, and 30 cents for hydrogen. Now diesel, as Gustav mentioned, we have HVO on 90% of the vessels in Stockholm now, and HVO is double price. Batteries, on the other hand, also as Gustav mentioned, we still have tax in Sweden on electricity. We believe that that tax will be taken away, and then it will be 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Hydrogen will go down. Today, 30 cents will go down to 15 cents in 3 or 4 years. So this means batteries are absolutely the best, but on the other hand, they're so heavy, so the range is limited. If we look at a comparison between a conventional biodiesel catamaran and a battery-driven fuel cell supported vessel catamaran, 2,000 operating hours, which is quite normal. The energy consumption is around 340 liters per hour, and in the battery version it's 1,000 kilowatt. Fuel price, as mentioned before, and the annual cost is 950,000 euro compared to 140,000 euro. I would say the difference is bigger than the capital cost is for getting a new boat. Now, if you look at the charging, there's a charging station in the 10-foot container, and we use 1,500 kilowatt charging power and 1,500 kilowatt feeding power from the net. And that will normally give some 10 minutes charging time. However, in many cities, in Stockholm not the least, we have not problems with energy, but we have problems with power. So we need a buffer, probably in many places. And then we have a 20-foot container, and we put in a buffer, 400 kilowatt buffer battery. Charging power, still 1,500 kilowatt, but as we use some of the power from the battery, we need only 300 kilowatt from the net. And while the boat is away, the battery is recharged. If we look at the hydrogen, I would say the vessel is almost similar, whether it's battery-driven or hydrogen-driven. Most of the systems are similar. Hydrogen, there are two possible solutions, actually 3, but I mentioned 2 here. The first one is to have electrolyzer on the quay in the 20-foot container, and one hose down into the water and one cable to the net. It can produce 200 kilos of hydrogen which corresponds to 1 day's consumption. And we use about 400 kilowatts from the net. If that's not possible, it will take some time to install, etc. There can be truck deliveries. There is a vessel in Stavanger in Norway, and they will have truck deliveries from Linde in the hydrogen factory in Germany, actually. And they put all these cassettes on the quay. So let's go and look at the financing part of it. The transition to emission-free transport means heavy investments in new high-speed vessels, because the old high-speed vessels are probably too heavy. They can be retrofitted, but they will go slower. There's also a retrofit of slower vessels and investment in charging infrastructure. But the new ways of financing can keep costs down. I must refer to Einstein here, where Tobias talked in the beginning of old new solutions cannot use the old experience. I would say a ferry is not a bus. Traditionally, in many countries, the operator is expected to provide the vessel. Buses, which are the main type of transport besides of the metro, they have a lifetime in the same range as the contract they get. That is around 8 years. Ferries, they have 3 to 4 times longer lifetime, but they still have 8-year contracts, or 10 years maybe, and they will be depreciated over the same period. And that's quite costly. And in the transition, the operators will probably not have the financial power to make the investment. The idea we have presented is to separate ownership from operations. Like they do in the hotel business, real estate ownership is often separated from management of the hotel. And long-term financing of ferries reduces the capital costs. For example, if there are pension funds that are interested to invest in fleets and depreciation of 25 years at fairly good interest rate, we keep the capital cost down to some 10% compared to 15, 20% today. Batteries and fuel cells, they last only 10 years though. But short-term contracts open up for small operators to offer their services. Now over to economy. 5 factors that reduces cost, because I said in the beginning, they will be at lower cost. And we work with 5 different factors. First factor is actually speed. You all know that we have to reduce speed to save energy. And I would say that is old thinking. Fast ferries do more transport work per hour than slow ferries. If you have 2 ferries making 12 knots, they can have about the same time schedule as 1 fast ferry making 25 knots. That's mathematics. And 1 ferry has only 1 crew and 1 vessel. Second is to keep costs down. And we are focusing on producing the Beluga 24 in great mass, serial production. If we have standardized ferries, we're going down to the old concept of Henry Ford 100 years ago or more. Same type of vessel, and then everyone can afford to have a high-speed vessel. Financing, I told you earlier about a way of keeping financial costs down. Energy efficiency, to use energy efficient hulls keeps costs down. And the fifth factor is quite interesting. Maybe you recognize this diagram for earlier presentation from the Public Transport Authority in Stockholm. The fleet is dimensioned not to leave anyone on the quay in mid-summer time. In July, the cabin factor is about 25%. And in low season, in winter, it's about 8%. It's better to have smaller vessels. And in peak hours, to use what we call peak shaving vessels, vessels that are used only on Friday afternoon and Sunday evening. And hello.
Yeah, sorry, Hans, had to interrupt. Please go on.
Okay, thank you. Last year, we presented something called Boat Plan Stockholm 2025. We calculated that there are about 40,000 tons of yearly greenhouse gas emissions from the archipelago fleet in Stockholm. This could be replaced using about 150 million euro from pension funds. That will take away all the emissions, and the fleet could be totally emission-free and zero emission for the region. And I will tell you how. We analyzed the whole fleet, about 62 ferries, between 100 and 500 passengers, and the speed was between 10 and 25 knots. The average age was about 40 years, and there were emissions from 15 million liter diesel. And the emissions were 40,000 tons of CO2. The transition to zero emission could be done in this way. 23 new fast emission-free ferries. Could be that one, the Baby Green 24, or rather the Beluga 24, or the Candela, or whatever. But new fast ferries. 11 retrofitted hydrogen ferries with reduced speed, and 40 new or retrofitted slow ferries, and then charging station. Altogether, 150 million euro, and we had it financed through pension funds, or will have it financed through pension funds. And we said during 5 years, with 5 new and 5 retrofitted ferries per year, it will take some 5 years to get a zero emission fleet in Stockholm. So the transition to zero emission waterborne traffic can be made at no extra cost, because the capital cost and the energy cost will go down. And today, using HVO is quite expensive. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Hans, for your presentation, and not only leading us into technology issues, but also in finance issues and possible business models. Are there any questions on this topic? Okay, maybe a question from my side. So you are a complete systems integrator, offering the ferries, but also charging and fuel, and also financing models. So if now, let's say, a municipality wants to shift to e-ferries, so what kind of models do you have to get kind of the Beluga 24 as a vessel and of a concept? So what will you provide to the municipality and can provide to the municipality and the customer?
What we found out talking to many public transport authorities all over the world, I would say, they will have similar situations. And what we found was that if we could offer a charter contract, leasing contract or similar thing, that would make it possible to take decisions to introduce emission-free vessels earlier than if they had to go through investment phase, evaluate the vessels and make an investment. So we actually found we will gain some 2 years in market introduction of new emission-free vessels by having a leasing concept.
Okay, thank you. Are there further questions and comments? Maybe coming back to the question that we had previously. So you said you started also kind of your history with a retrofit of a slow vessel. And also when we look at your boating plan or plan for Stockholm 2025, there is still this element of retrofit. But on the other hand, you also said that the operating costs may, could refinance quite easily a new building. How do you see that? Is retrofit still something that is an option in some cases, or is it rather with a state of technology and also what you said, this transition to high speed, which kind of creates additional opportunity, or is it only a new niche nowadays, and from this perspective, let's say a bridge solution?
Yeah, I would divide the fleet in two segments: high speed and slow to medium speed. I mean, you cannot make 30 knots in the center of Stockholm. So there are a lot of vessels that have speed limits up to 12 knots. And they do not have so high energy consumption. So even if there are steel boats, it's worthwhile to retrofit them. It's only in the high-speed segment that is very difficult to retrofit, for example, an aluminum catamaran to still make 30 knots on hydrogen or batteries. I would say batteries would almost be impossible. Hydrogen, yes, but it would be very expensive because of the energy consumption. So high-speed vessels, I see most of them will be new. If you have a high-speed vessel today, you could reduce the speed and retrofit it. So there are lots of opportunities for retrofitting vessels.
Okay, are there further questions? You talked also a lot about hydrogen and battery electric. So yeah, in many articles you can find that hydrogen is for longer distance, while batteries are for shorter distance, and they make it as simple as that. Is this something that is still valid from your point of view, or where do you see the potential for hydrogen in the context of this commuting? And second question is also, you mentioned also the hydrogen packages of Shandia, that is a cooperation partner for you. How is it with hydrogen? I mean, you will start serial production of Beluga 24 next year. Will also be hydrogen ready to be in daily operation by that date?
Yes, that's correct. I would say batteries is no problem. I mean, Chandia delivers battery systems to many countries. They will introduce their hydrogen system, I think this year, by the end of this year. So we have some time to go before our vessel will have the hydrogen. But I'm confident that we have a commercial version at the same time as the vessel is built. And we will start building the vessel early next year, and it will take about 1.5 years for the first vessel, whether it's hydrogen or battery. And to add, we have some 15 nautical miles as a limit. Over 15 nautical miles, we believe it will be hydrogen.
Okay, but that would mean that in urban contexts, battery electric, with the advantages that you say that you highlighted, is kind of the probably in most cases the preferred options also in the future.
Yes, I looked at we have a lot of prospects all over the world, around 85 prospects, and out of them, 2/3 are batteries, and 1/3 is hydrogen.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Please don't be shy. Usually we have a very active group in this project, but today, yeah, I don't know, maybe we started too early in the morning. So thank you very much, Hans, for this presentation. Yeah, we would come to the last presentation and the last speaker of today. So let me put on the agenda again and share it with you. So, am I a presenter? No, I'm not. So I will share my screen for a while. Yeah.
Can you close my sharing?
Yes, I did it now in this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes. So let's go to the last topic of today, and even a bit more into advanced technology, and also, another feature of advanced technology and the future, and this is autonomous water mobility. And I'm happy that Erik, I hope my pronunciation is correct, Erik Dirkuren, the CEO and co-founder of Zeabuz, a Norwegian-based company, is joining us today to tell a little bit more about this concept and the concept of Zeabuz to develop an, on the one hand, autonomous but also fully attractive urban water mobility system. So Erik, the floor is yours. I will make you the presenter, and please tell us more about Zeabuz.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to this conference. Very interesting presenters here, and a good context to present our coming concept of urban waterborne autonomous mobility. So Zeabuz is a startup from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology in Trondheim, where also I live. And the research community behind the company has been working on autonomous systems for decades in a sense. It means that there has been a spin-off companies from this research community since the 60s actually, and then of course at that time it was automation or control systems, and now we're moving in the direction of autonomy, and Zeabuz is sort of the latest branch on that commercialization journey. Now I'm going to show you what the Zeabuz solution is about and how we think that could change city development all around the world. I'm going to see if I can now share my screen. I see that I have not done that through GoToMeeting before, which means that I need to actually quit and reopen the app before I can share my screen. Sorry, I'll be back in a second.
Okay, so Eric will be back. Let's take a breath before we go on. I hope that, yeah, this was fast. So I see you are
Yeah,
back.
I'm
And
back.
I think we have to make you the moderator again.
Mm,
So this should be done now. And now you could share your screen.
good deal. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you now see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
That was very quick, wasn't it? Okay, good. What we see here is how we now are designing our ferry system. It's we're creating shortcuts across waterways with this. It's like an alternative to bridges or other waterborne transport, but mostly it's actually where bridges cannot be built, which is, many places in cities, there's not an opportunity to build bridges. Maybe it's too far, or you have other ship traffic going in that area that makes those type of bridges too expensive, and so on. So we're making shortcuts, and we're saying that we will revitalize urban waterways with autonomous mobility, because this type of concept has been, normal around the world for maybe hundreds of years, but the most cost-driving element here is the captain. And the more regulated society has become, the more expensive that type of personnel has become. And then the frequency of operation and time of operation has decreased. And then in the end, it turns out to a service that is not really dependable for citizens, and it sort of disappeared. And also in the same time, we see roads and cars and all these things have appeared and made, of course, it's much more efficient and cheaper, but we've ended up in a situation where road traffic has it's been congested all over the world. And building more roads, or let's say one level above this road here in Seoul in South Korea, just doesn't make sense. And then utilize the waterways just sitting there next to these roads in a different manner makes so much sense. And so we're offering here one solution to this type of urban problem that is now all over the world. Let's say most cities in the world has been placed near waterways, and because those were the mode of transport we used. Now let's take that back. I'm sorry, this picture I know is reversed. So if you know Korean, you will see that the road sign here is actually backwards, but I think we still make the point is okay. So our solution is zero emission, autonomous, waterborne mobility. They are, of course, fully electric. They charge on every stop. And we have many questions regarding, okay, how much battery capacity, how far can you go, and so on. Now, these ferries are quite large, and also they need ballast, so we can actually fit quite a number of large battery systems in the hull, so that we can charge a little bit on each stop on each side, with fully charged during night or low operation or low demand hours. It's also intended that this will work on demand. They will not operate unless called for. That's at least that's one option, and typically operate across rivers, canals, lakes, harbor basins. Many harbor basins are actually for use, and then coming from one side to the other could be a long way around, and that's like a perfect shortcut that we could make with our type of ferries. We see good interest from cities because we address so many of the sustainable development goals, both from infrastructure, it's flexible, we create more environmentally friendly cities, and so on. So what we offer here, how this will impact society is on 3 levels. One is for citizens. They will then get an opportunity to travel across waterways any time of day, 24/7. Of course, weather windows do exist. So in storms, we may see that they will not operate. And urban developers may here see an opportunity to create a shortcut between a property developing area and into the city center that otherwise would require a long, road around. And that's probably our first type of customers, are urban developers that could, take this and offer that as a service to an area, and more or less like an elevator in a building, something that just increases the value of that property. And cities and politicians will then address this or implement them to make cities more attractive, cleaner, and give its citizens a moment of zen on the water while watching road traffic jammed in the background. So, and Zeabuz's role in this is that we are masters of autonomy for waterborne mobility. And the founding team is 14 people, and 6 of them are professors, and mostly within the area of autonomy and related fields. So it's a very strong community behind the company. And we develop what we call autonomy as a service for this segment, and then rely on a market developing these ferries. And we have teamed up with Norway's largest modern ferry operator called Torghatten that just launched the world's largest electric ferry, and they're also experimenting with hydrogen, and now they want to be working on autonomy. So, but for autonomy to work well commercially, we need to build trust in that autonomy actually is safe. That's just for passengers, for customers, for regulatory bodies, for society at large. And then we think that is where we need to put the most effort. So we have that as a self-standing, or let's say its own development area. Build trust in our technology through a transparent assurance framework, and we use systems like digital twins and lots of simulations and so on to do that. And we think that's also how we can show to the world that our systems can be trusted. And just to put a parallel to that, Tesla, Waymo, and other big companies that work with autonomous mobility, they have a lot of data from their driving cars in real life, but they do many times more miles on their systems in simulators, because that's what's required to train the system to operate safely. Now, on the road, autonomy is many orders of magnitude more difficult, because the situations and the number of situations and the speed and the number of objects and everything is so much larger and more difficult to comprehend for a digital system. While on water, on crossing a waterway in a city, we think will be much easier in a way, because we have maximum 5 knots. Traffic may be there, but it's all kind of moving slowly. Distances are can be handled, and in sum gives us a situation where today's technology can handle almost any thinkable situation on our urban waterway. So that gives us a quicker way into being commercial potentially. So we're also committed to inspire change of travel habits. We're working with the politicians in Norway and abroad to make people understand that this is coming. This will change how you can think about urban development. This is another building block of thinking mobility flow through your city. And it's also flexible, so you can sort of think that, okay, if I try one stretch or one leg across a waterway, I may actually move it later because I found that that makes more sense. Or you can add one, and then you can have a network of ferries moving up and down waterways when technology allows for that to happen as well. We're very open to innovation with partners. We as I said, work with a large ferry operator. We also work with other technology providers, so we can focus really on the autonomy as a service profile. And also trying to encourage some of these partners to think about how an urban autonomous ferry can be used for other things as well when, let's say, passenger demand is low, like at night or something like that, for cargo handling or trash collection, data gathering from the environment, and much more. There are opportunities there that we find very interesting and look for good solutions into. So let me just explain a little bit what is autonomy in this context. This Zeabuz autonomy platform is based on certain building blocks, and of course one is the sensors and the precipitation, or the perception sensors that gather data about the surroundings. Now that data is put into a stack of all inputs from LiDAR, from optical cameras, from radar, from infrared cameras, and AIS, and so on. And all this is put into a stack that creates the situational awareness for the system. And this is really where the hard stuff of autonomy comes in. How do you make sure that all the sensors are seeing the right thing and can actually give you that type of data that makes you understand that, this is a situation, and then how do I then act to that? For instance, here you see some kayaks playing, and it has seen those, like that's exemplified with the red circumference there, and then there are some ducks in the way. Okay, so to travel safely, you need to go around that, right? Normally, I guess the ducks will fly away, but anyway, this is just an example. So motion planning and collision avoidance is sort of the third step of an autonomy logic. And also then, based on situational awareness, what do I do and how do I avoid collision with objects in my way? And then let's see, last here is motion and actuator control. Now, that is, let's say, autopilot, which is more or less already off-the-shelf type of systems that can be provided for leisure boats. You can buy autopilots where you say, I want to go from A to B, and it takes you there. But it doesn't have any clue if it's going to collide in anything that's in its path, except that it's going to avoid, crashing into a rock. So the autonomy, what it does is actually giving you then the comprehension of the surroundings, and then make the proper decision to avoid collisions, and then put that into this automation system or autopilot system. So we're on the left, and on the right here is what's more off-the-shelf type of systems. So where I said we come from NTNU in Trondheim, the Norway's largest technical university. And we're based out of a research community that actually built 2 prototypes of this kind. One is called Milliampere, that was launched in 2018, and then the second one with, I say inventive name, Milliampere 2, was launched April this year, and will start some sort of a first of its kind operation this summer here in Trondheim, crossing a canal with not so much traffic and also very calm waters. So it's a very good location to start industrializing this technology. And they're first of its kind, so it's a good place for Zeabuz to be on commercializing this type of technology as well. We don't do this alone, of course. We have our partners with NTNU and our Torghatten, which is the investor and the business partner and development partner. We also work closely with DNV, which is a a world-leading classification society on ship assurance and classification. We work closely with them in developing how regulatory bodies can classify autonomous maritime systems. And they use Zeabuz as a use case to develop that type of structure. And as far as we understand, they are leading that that development among the classification societies or companies in the world. So they have offices also in Trondheim, and we, there's the sort of integrated part of our team in many respects. Marine Technologies is developing these automation systems, and we work closely with them to get that integration that was between autonomy and automation that I showed on the slide before. Norwegian Maritime Authority is a very important actor here. We cannot operate autonomously without the blessing or certification from them. And they have an ambition to become maybe the first authority of its kind to find good ways to regulate autonomous marine traffic. So, and then we have selected the simplest type of operation, and think maybe we can also be then the first to find that, to receive such certification from them within the next couple of years, perhaps. And on that note, we will, of course, work with some sort of supervised autonomy in the beginning, with one person on board our ferries, handling passengers and so forth, predominantly leaving the autonomy by itself, but being there in case something happens until the right certifications are in place. So we're a growing team. I'm not going to go through who that is, but we also have a strong board of directors and advisors that will help this fly. Now, just let me just give you one use case that we're working with very closely. This is in a small city in the southern part of Norway called Sandefjord. Used to be one, actually like a capital for whaling. That's sort of a proud history, but also not so proud history, because they hunted down a lot of whales, but it also was like an industrial period of big pride for that city. Now they're redeveloping the city. It's come to life again after many years of being sleepy, because after the whaling period ended. And now they want to make a shortcut between the city center on the up here and then towards the former shipyard area that is now being rebuilt into residential area, and then building restaurants and so on. And they want to be the first in the world to launch such a ferry. That's summer next year. So that's what we're working on now, to get that pilot in place, and full steam ahead on that. And then after that, when we have done this, we are ready to then go broader out. I guess Norway will have more of these ferries before we can or should go abroad. But let's say in a couple of years, we are ready to go to Europe as our first destination. Northern Europe, probably. There's a lot of waterways, a lot of canals, a lot of opportunities. And that's what we're here to do. There's a lot of traction on the media side for this. CNN wrote a good article about us last year. So we think this is definitely something that is that will come. We think this will change how urban developers and cities will develop in the future, and then also hopefully some of you participating in this conference will see both market opportunities for us, but maybe more how we can collaborate in making each other stronger, in getting this message across and develop this type of systems in the best possible manner, so that it can actually be adopted by societies and make our cities better to live in all over the world. So I guess that's what I wanted to say today, and I'm open for any questions.
Yes, thank you, Eric, for the presentation. Yes, there are questions in the chat. I just have to see and screen. Maybe you can see as well from Julia Lange. Yeah. So the first question is what you see as lessons learned from this work with all these high technology aspects and different actors that you mentioned, also on the regulatory and legal side, I see. So is there, state now any advice that you could give to also other countries? Because, it's obvious that this is not only a technology part, but also a regulatory part.
Yeah. It's oh, that's a good question. It's a very broad question. I guess it's like a key point of getting a project like this together, right? I think Zeabuz was founded on a very good platform. The founding team, as I said, is 14 people, and we're all sort of seniors in, not like senior citizens. No, we're experienced. We have network. We know thousands of people. We know the big companies. We have names in Norwegian industry, and then when we started talking about this idea, we could quickly pull the right people together. Because it made sense, the business idea made sense, and then we had the people, so we had the right group, and then we can find the right investors, and then we could build the right business plan, and then that snowball started rolling really quickly, really fast. So I think that's like I've been a founder for many years, and then I guess that's the most difficult part, to get that snowball rolling, right? There's just that initial spark. If you don't know too many people and you only have an idea and you know hardly how to commercialize it, it's going to be a long road. But if you know a lot of people and you can put this together, it's a whole different story. So and that's sort of been my role, to do exactly that. That's what I know. I don't know too much about autonomy. I know maritime industry, and I know how things work. I'm an engineer, but also an MBA, and that's where maybe I come in and do this and build teams to do the job. So, does that answer your question, Julia?
So, yeah.
Yes, thanks a lot. So I see that a large variety of team members helps a lot, and to have, also the knowledge of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, the latter is very true. Actually, two of the professors that was in the founding team is in the board, and they have founded many companies. I think one of them has like a university record or number of companies founded. So it's become like a spin-off machine in this, from that Institute of Engineering Cybernetics, as they call it, which is around simulation, control theory, and autonomy and so on. So that it really helps. You know what to do, sort of. Yeah. Doesn't mean that we're going to be successful for sure, but it helps a lot.
Okay, Julia, is also your second question answered by that, or do you have any further ones?
Well, the second question goes a little bit more into the direction of how do you work together with all these different people from with different backgrounds? Do you organize yourself in smaller groups, or because I see that there are so many different aspects that have to be worked on to bring all this together to finally make it work? As I say, the legal parts, the technology itself. So Yeah, maybe if you have, if you could give an insight on that, that would be interesting to me.
Yeah, that's I think that's the key, really. One thing is for sure, you need to find the right people that know what they're doing, right? They need to be really experts in their fields, and so that's I think where we've started off in a very good manner here. That we got the right people on board, that we could. So I'm really good at delegating. I don't like leading people. I like to create good processes and build organizations. I need people that can lead themselves and then find their way to operate, and then form the most optimal groups that need to collaborate to make to make the right type of progress. So I think freedom and responsibility is really the key, but for that to happen successfully, you need really clever people. So recruitment, that's the key. Yeah? Finding the right people to do your job the best possible way, so I can focus on what I need to do, because that's just how it needs to happen. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you. We have another question going back a little bit to the system that you development. So, question from Gustav: can this vessel go on regular timetable, or is it also planned that they may go on demand?
Both, actually. We think maybe on demand is going to be more efficient, because sometimes it will be, or let's say it could be both. During high frequency or high demand hours, it may just go back and forth, and you may have two of them going, like that. And then when demand drops, it's they go on demand. They you press a button, or I think more likely it will be an app that calls for it. So then, yeah, that's it. So.
Okay, are there further questions from the audience? Yeah, I understood that you will now go. You have already some small pilots, the milliampere 1 and 2.
Yeah.
What was the experience? I mean, did you test this also already with clients, with citizens, and what was their reaction to this offer?
Yeah, that's good question. We're the milliampere number 1 tested only technology, and successfully so much that we could build the second one, which is now being put into operation this summer, where the passenger aspect will be tested. So we haven't really tested, let's say, unfamiliar passengers and how their experience with this will be. That's going to be like a world's first this summer in Trondheim. And perhaps this is where we'll find some unseen, unthought of challenges and how to interact between an autonomous boat and then passengers, and if another fast-going boats that goes like above speed limit comes towards this ferry, how do the ferry then communicate to its passengers that it's handling that situation safely without scaring the passengers? And just so there's a lot of communication aspects there that we're very anxious to start working on. And in the end, it's all about the perception of the perceived trust, right? Both from passengers and surroundings. Also, the surrounding boats need to see that, hey, this is an autonomous ferry. Will it break now that I come here, or will I break, or what happens? Because normally, if you notice next time you're driving a car, there's a lot of eye contact going on in traffic. And that is so important for people to understand what's going on. I see you, okay, we have a mutual understanding of what's going on, and then we continue. Now, when you remove that eye contact, how do people around it react? That's a very interesting question.
Okay, Yeah, we invited you as an autonomous concept to an electric water mobility seminar. So, obvious question: what is the connection between this? Is this concept dependent on battery electric propulsion, or is it also? Can you also imagine that it go on other propulsion systems?
Yeah, we think electric is going to be dominant in this sector. Electricity is mostly everywhere, and we also don't use that much electricity because we move slowly with not so much water displacement and friction. So it's a very good fit between batteries and this concept. But there are places you may see that this could be implemented where there are no electricity, and maybe hydrogen or something could be tested out. We are not working in that direction, but we see that this may happen. But then again, you may also, use solar panels or something and charge up local batteries that can, then charge the ferry on the shore side. So in the end, we think this could be an off-grid solution, if you have the right conditions to produce your own electricity. So.
Okay.
And charging is automatic, yeah, when you come into the shore. I see that question. You come in, you close the hatch, you lock into the docking station or docking adapter, as you call it, and then charging starts automatically. So.
And this is also something that will be implemented on your pilot that will start next year in Sandefjord, that you have automatic charging. And this will be then on timetable, or will this already be on demand?
That's not decided yet how we do that. But yeah, automatic charging is definitely part of that concept, and whether it's on demand or not, it's we think it's going to be on demand. It's the best solution for this. Also, another aspect, it's going to be for free, because the guy paying for this, he's a property developer. He bought that old shipyard on the other side, and he wants this to create that shortcut into the city center. And paying the price for one ferry is small compared to the increased value that his property will get from this. Very commercial, but also very nice way to do it, because otherwise people will have to drive cars around, and then so it's a very it changes the behavior of people into a better.
Okay, thank you. Maybe one last question. So if a city or a public transport operator wants to jump into this autonomous water mobility, so you as a company, what do you plan to offer? Is it just that you offer kind of the development? Do you offer the vessels, or do you also think about some mobility as a service schemes that you may offer to the city? So what are your kind of business plans for the future?
Yeah, another good question. Yeah, we believe in let's say our current business model spans everything from system sales and then just running the autonomy as a service to mobility as a service. We run the whole operation through our subsidiaries and together with our investor Torghatten. So we can offer both. That's where we stand today. We will probably converge towards one or the other when we are into the market, when we see what is the best way forward and how the market adapts to this. But we can definitely do both as it is now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. I don't see any further questions on that for this little peek into the future. Yeah, I think we are looking forward to have a look in practice from 2020 to 23 in Sandefjord, then to have a look also how this will work. I think this will be very exciting. Yeah, we are 3 minutes to the end, and yeah, I would now share my screen again for a little bit of summary and also a little bit of outlook. So first of all, I would like to thank all of our speakers for their contributions and also for the questions from the plenary, and to give us a little bit this overview that we provided. And sorry for these slight technical problems that we had here and there, but we managed together to solve it, I think, in a good way finally. So maybe a personal summary from my side. So I found it very interesting that today we did not only talk about how to convert or how to replace conventional ships in urban public transport by e-ships, but also to have a little bit the wider perspective, and this was also the idea, and also to address how electric ferries, electric ships can really kind of change urban public transport in a more fundamental way, and also not only to have visions, but also to have kind of concrete products that will be on offer, as well as also the perspective that this can be possible, yeah, if you have a political will, like in the case of the city of Stockholm, and maybe we can also add, if you also can afford it as a public authority to do that ship, but it is possible. I hope that this gave you some inspirations also for your own activities. I hope also that out of these presentations there will be contacts, direct contacts be established among participants, but maybe also with the speakers. And I can also tell you that this session was recorded. We will make it available at our website, and also the presentations of the speakers will mostly be available. So if you would like to kind of share this with a colleague or have a look again into that, so this will be an offer that we have for you to facilitate with this. I would also in the very end give you a little bit of outlook to the next two seminars that we will offer in the ELMA project, which have a little bit different focus. So the next one is on next Wednesday, 9th of June. It is there we will go a little bit more into leisure boating and recreational shipping in also an urban context here, so away from the public transport perspective. So the heading is Electrifying a Boating Area, the Amsterdam case. So here also a brave and fundamental political decision made by the city council to ban internal combustion engines and ships with that from the city center totally by 2025. And this has led already to a transition process, and we will get information, first-hand information from the political side. So the vice mayor of Amsterdam will join us and give us a little bit information about the political background. And then we have also presentations on onshore infrastructure, charging infrastructure, which is of course one of the big challenges of these transitions, and also how about use cases for recreational urban electric water mobility. We will have a look to that. I think this agenda has been sent out to you already before this meeting. And the last seminar of its kind, we on 17th of June, we have called Norway Revisited. So 3 years ago, in 2018, we had a study trip within the ELMA seminar to Norway, and at that time, we had a look at the world's first electric car ferry. That was the Ampere, and we were acquainted with plans of Norway to have 25 electric ferries in operation in 2021, and we decided, let's have a look again. And I can tell you today there are more than 80 electric ferries in Norway in operation. So it's time for a follow-up. And there we have a look into the next generation battery electric car ferries, and also a look into hydrogen ferries. So these are the next 3 hours online seminars. So you're very welcome to join again. If you liked it, recommend it to your colleagues. And thank you very much for today. And I hope to see you again next week or the week after at one of our next events. And in the very end, I also should send regards from Mario Heinrich, which welcomed you in the beginning, but he's from Germany. Broadband is not our strong point in Germany, so he has some connection problems here and cannot speak at the moment. So also from Mario, I should say, send you his regards and also a goodbye. And we hope to see you again. Bye bye. And thank you for today.